You don't need it. You don't need half the stuff the internet tells you need to start trail running. Let's cut through the noise and make sure you can get out on the trails without the unnecessary fluff. Hi, I'm Shauna, this is Shauna's World. I make videos for regular runners showing the raw, unfiltered journey. Let's get into it. So, you're here because you want to get into trail running. Maybe you've done some road running and are curious about getting out in some more beautiful places and enjoying the views on the trails. Or maybe you're already familiar with the trails, but you're a hiker and you've only ever walked before and wanting to see what happens if you speed up a little bit. Or maybe this entire world is new to you. Whichever it is, if you're starting out in trail running, you want to be prepared. But with every social media platform teeming with voices telling you to buy more stuff, and with Google searches for things you actually might need just bringing up loads of sponsored content and ads, it can be confusing to know where to put your money. This video will share some of the things you might see everywhere online, and I'm telling you, if I was starting trail running now, I would not be spending my money on. And as a side note, anything you are thinking about buying before you get out on the trails is so worth seeking out either secondhand from sites like Vinted, Depop, eBay, all of that, or also seeing if you can borrow it from someone so you can just try it out before you need to spend any money. I know if you don't have a circle of outdoorsy or trail running friends, it can be tricky to borrow stuff. There's even things like Library of Things or some local Facebook groups, community groups. It's worth just asking around and leaning into that kind of sharing economy. Trail running is a hobby that relies on the beautiful parts of our land, so let's make sure that when we're going into this hobby, we're doing it to steward the land and minimizing our impact as much as we can, because it is a hobby that does have impact and it does affect nature. So the more we can reduce that, the better. So let me get into the things I absolutely would not spend money on if I was a beginner trail runner. 1. Waterproof trainers. If you're going to be running through mud and puddles and potentially even streams, you might think it's logical to get waterproof trail shoes. I mean, most of us hike with waterproof boots, but I'm telling you, don't do it. I got waterproof trail shoes not even because I necessarily thought they were the best things out there. I got them simply because when I went to the shop for a specific model, they only had the waterproof version of the ones that I wanted. I thought they would be fine and I thought it might even be a bonus, but they actually aren't really ideal for running on wet, muddy trails all day. Yes, they do stop water seeping in through the sides, but as trainers have lower tops than, say, hiking boots, water gets in really easily over the top of the shoes, around your ankle, and then it can't get out. There's nowhere for them to breathe, there's no way for it to release, and then you're just squelching around in horrible, wet, unpleasant shoes. That can also increase your risk of blisters and even trench foot. And even if your feet aren't getting super wet from the outside, when you have really hot, sweaty feet, they're just going to be festering in your waterproof trainers. So it might seem counterintuitive. You think you want dry feet, but just get normal, non-waterproof trail running shoes, because the waterproof ones just aren't practical for actually being out on wet, muddy trails and staying comfortable. 2. A whole medicine cabinet full of supplements. One of the main things I see ads for on my social media is a whole variety of supplements that aim to help runners or aim to help you be a better person in whatever way. Now, I'm absolutely not against supplements. Many of them do a lot of good, but the issue is most people are buying into supplements because they've been recommended them by an algorithm rather than because they know that's what they need or they have some deficiency in a nutrient, and that's what big supplement wants. When you're just starting out in trail running, it's just not worth buying into whatever your favorite running influencer might be recommending. There are some things you might need a bit more of when you take up trail running, like protein and carbs for a start, but most of this stuff you can obtain through your food. Protein powder can be really helpful if the food you eat or the food you like or what you consume just doesn't give you the protein you need, but it is worth tracking to see what you consume. Otherwise it'll just be money wasted on a supplement when you're doing fine with what you're already eating. Similarly, carb gels can be great if you're out running for a long time, although sweets and other real food are fine too. But when I say supplements aren't what you need to spend money on as a new trail runner, what I really mean is all the other things you might be recommended. Stuff like glutamine, L-carnitine, zinc, magnesium, omega-3s, iron, calcium. All of these nutrients are valuable and essential, but unless a blood test has told you you're deficient, you do not need to be spending money on them. I know lots of people take supplements even when they're not running. I'm vegetarian, so I've taken a B12 supplement for a really long time. I take vitamin D as it's widely recommended in the UK in the winter. My point is, if you do, take them because you need them or you've been told it will be valuable to you by a medical professional or you have done research into it, not because somebody on the internet said a certain nutrient is good for runners. A lot of the people on the internet recommending these supplements are sponsored by the supplement brands, so just because you really trust somebody as a runner, it's not to say they're necessarily being inauthentic. They might really believe in it, but it is marketing and it isn't necessarily what you need. So it's just worth ignoring all of that and focusing on your own health and your own needs. It's worth keeping in mind the supplement industry is a whole multi-billion-pound industry. 3, a lot of the recovery stuff that's on the market. This is actually one of the areas I got pulled into the most when I started trail running regularly. There are so many things on sale that claim to help with recovery. And if you've just taken up trail running and your body's really feeling it, it's natural to think that investing in some of those things to help your body feel good and to get back out running more quickly is a good way to spend your money. But the reality is that a lot of this stuff just exists to make money, and a lot of it is very, very nice. It's not bad. It might be pleasant, but if you're looking for things that actually scientifically make a difference to your recovery, most of it doesn't actually work. I mean, if something feels good, it might have some kind of benefit and psychologically and just feeling good in yourself, but there's no cold hard science to it actually doing anything to repair your muscles faster. One of the biggest cons to me is the kind of recovery sandals that a lot of the running shoe brands make. So for example, these are Hoka's Recovery Aura sliders, £50, marketed at runners. You can choose your own level of cushioning or stability. It all sounds very technical and they might feel quite pleasant to put on after a long run on the trails, but you absolutely don't need a special expensive shoe for that. I have some fake Crocs that I got for £3 secondhand at a charity shop that do exactly the same job. It's not sportswear, there's no recovery marketing, but my feet still feel great in them after a long run. I also didn't really feel a need to get any special recovery shoes until I was racing ultras and needed something comfortable to travel back in. If I was just doing a long run from home and wanted to be comfortable afterwards, I would just wear a pair of slippers with a bit of support to them. Other recovery things like massage guns and foam rollers can feel really good on achy muscles, but studies show no actual improvement to how quickly the muscle repairs. Likewise, Epsom salts are beloved by runners, but scientifically, there is not any evidence that the magnesium in the Epsom salts in the bath can penetrate enough to actually cause any recovery benefits. And like I've said with other things, I'm not slating any of these things. Like if they feel good, do them. I love bath salt. I like how foam rolling feels, but it's really just about feeling good. And from what I understand, you can get those same benefits from curling up with a book and a candle, you know, which has no recovery offering, but you're just relaxing and feeling good, and that's still doing some form of good. So what I'm saying is just don't feel like you need to spend money on the sport specific recovery items that are often marketed. It's unnecessary. If it feels good, do it, but you don't need to. And if you do want to improve your recovery, the best thing for that is sleep, which is free, and you can invest in lots of that when you take up trail running, because that is good for the body, good for the mind, good for the soul, and will help your recovery significantly. 4, fancy branded trail running clothes. One of the biggest things that I think can eat up money and I would not spend on in the early days of taking up trail running is the fancy branded running kit. For me, the thing I was eyeing up was short knees. So Courtney Dauwalter's line with Salomon of long running shorts, like the one she wears. I thought they were very cool. I like Salomon stuff. I love her as a runner. And I was like, obviously I want those running shorts, but they are around £150 and they are not going to make me a better trail runner. It might not be short knees for you. It might be a trendy brand like Bandit Running that does cool shorts and crop top sets at very high prices. And as with anything, I'm not against investing in this kind of kit if it makes you feel like your best self. It's not needed, but if it feels good, it's not a bad thing. But whether it's about the stylish stuff or the technical stuff, I'd say when you're first starting out in trail running, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on any basic kit like shorts and t-shirts until I'd been running for a little while and figured out what it feels like when I'm running on the trails. What bits are rubbing? Where do I tend to chafe? Will short shorts irritate me? Will long shorts irritate me? You know, these kind of things that you just don't figure out until you've done a bit of running and know what kind of kit will genuinely work for you. I highly recommend to start with just making do with any sportswear you already have, or if you can, borrowing bits to try out or getting things at charity shops and figuring out what works, just to test out fits and styles and lengths and what works for you. And then when you have a really strong sense of exactly what feels good on your body, then it's maybe a better time to be investing in the higher end kit. After coveting the short knees, I ended up never buying them because I learned that they are very thin, lightweight material. Super great for racing, super comfortable, but not very resilient. I know I wear on my kit quite hard, and I need stuff that's going to be resilient and that's going to last me 10 years or so if I'm going to be spending £150 on a pair of shorts. I don't want that only lasting a couple of years. So I ended up just getting some long basketball shorts, secondhand on eBay. I like the fit, I like how they feel, they're really breathable. They're about 15 quid and I love them. I do think good technical kit can really make a difference, but everyone's taste and comfort and what feels good on them is so different. So I think if you did want to buy some really technical kit at a higher price point, it's bonkers to do that until you know the kinds of things that irritate you. Before I move on to the next one, I'm just reminding you to subscribe to the channel and also drop me a comment down below. Let me know the most unnecessary thing you've ever spent money on. 5. Fancy branded sunglasses. There are some really cool sunglasses made especially for running, so Oakley's and Sun God are two really great brands for runners, and the prices are generally pretty high. As with everything else, I'm not against them. I just want you to know you don't have to spend money on running specific sunglasses just because you're taking up trail running. If you have sunglasses already, even if they're not sport specific ones, it's amazing how far you can get with a glasses retainer, which is like a piece of elastic that goes around the back and it just helps them stay stable on your face. So you don't need the specific sport ones, but you can just adapt what you've got to make it possible to run in them. 6. Carbon plated super shoes. Okay, this isn't one I hear loads about people wanting to invest in for trail running. I know it's generally more of a road running thing, as carbon plated super shoes are much less effective on the trails than they are on the road anyway, but there are a whole range of carbon plated shoes for trail running, and in case there is any shadow of a doubt, these are not remotely useful as a beginner trail runner. I can understand thinking
better shoes will make better running,
but any benefits of these shoes really only come into play when you're running fast. The gains are marginal, but the shoes are a lot more expensive, so it's just not worth spending your money on. Just don't do it. Just get trainers that feel comfortable to run in. 7. A top of the range running watch. I love my running watch, but when you're just starting out, you can definitely get by without one or with a very basic model, at least until you know this is a hobby that's going to stick. The higher end watches can offer a lot of cool features, but the majority of features that you might pay a higher price for, like music or really good GPS, can just be done on your phone until you decide this is a hobby you're really going to spend a lot of time with and you're willing to invest in. You can use Strava on your phone to record your runs. You can use OS Maps for really good navigation. You can use whatever you use for music. I did start out in trail running with a watch, but I got the very most basic Garmin model that you could get. And I really like having it because it allowed me to easily keep an eye on things like pace and distance. And it was a watch that served me well, and it got me through my first ultra marathon. The reason I finally decided to splash out on a watch with more bells and whistles to it was because I knew I was going to be running longer ultra marathons, and the battery life, it wouldn't have been possible on the watch I had, and there was no GPS. So it really served me for my first ultra, but when I started to scale up and was working towards my first 50 miler, I knew it was a good time to start considering a good second-hand watch that would help me with my running. But when you're starting out in trail running, you'll probably be doing shorter distances and figuring out what trail running looks like for you. So there's absolutely no need to be spending hundreds of pounds on tech. 8. Running poles. And this might be controversial. Now, running poles are something that I think can be a really key piece of kit for most trail runners, but it's certainly not something I would spend money on right in the beginning. If you're coming to trail running from hiking and you already have walking poles, I'd just use those to get a feel for what it's like to run with poles, how it feels, get used to the technique, and have that extra bit of stability on the hills. If you don't have anything like that, I would just try and borrow some poles or even do a workshop just to get a feel for how they are before you decide to spend money on them. Poles are something I generally take on a much longer or much hillier run. And as with other things, I think if I was just starting out again, I would want to spend a bit longer just getting a feel for being outside, being out on the trails on runs, to decide what kind of trail running I'd be doing. Would it be longer? Would it be hillier? And then just waiting until it feels like the right time and it feels like something that almost I can't live without before I make that purchase. Poles are such a feature of kind of all the trail running imagery that I can understand that starting out you'd think, oh, that's something I need to get going on this hobby. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's something you start the hobby, see how it's going for you, and then add them in at a time when it feels really aligned. So those are my key things I would not buy as a beginner trail runner. You'll see the theme that a lot of these aren't bad, and some of them are even pretty great to invest in further down the line. But when you're new to the sport, keeping it simple is best. Sticking with the basics until you feel confident you can choose things based on alignment rather than a list of affiliates that a trail running celebrity once told you you needed. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that surprised you on this list or if there's anything you would add. I hope you found that useful. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.